Welcome to another edition of the ROTL UK podcast. It's a very special episode today, and I don't just mean because it's episode number 69, way. It is the anniversary show. We are 1 year old today. A year ago today, 9th of August 2020, 7 guys from the UK decided that the Detroit Lions were enough of a passion to talk about it from about 5,000 miles away, and we're still going. I honestly can't believe it, and I don't think these guys can either. I'm joined by my co-host, all back together again for the first time since before the NFL draft, actually. Anthony Fitzpatrick, Steve Collins, Ryan Farden, Ryan McCluskey, Martin Birrell. How are you all doing, boys?
Back together.
We're all excited, obviously. We're all back together. The band's back together.
Ryan's beard is looking absolutely magnificent. I can see the growth from last week.
Yep, just hard will it, just willing it to grow even longer.
The only problem is it's reminding me of Matt Patricia, so I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Oh, that's so mean.
Language.
Don't put a pencil. Just don't put a pencil in your ear.
I might do that for Halloween.
Oh,
do you want to grow that thing out till we win a Super Bowl, Ryan? I want to see how long it gets.
I'll bear in mind that I was at the time of last year the oldest person on this podcast, so I can't be waiting around that long. I'm already 39. I'm waiting around for a Super Bowl when I'm not sure I'll make that. But
I don't think my girlfriend will let me grow it that long. I look like Evan Almighty.
Oh, she's a boss, so we can't go against that. Right, don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Raw of the Lions UK. Thanks to everyone watching live. One Funky Lions fan says happy birthday. Thank you, man. Mac says, hell, man, my coat of arms has a lion in it. Where's Luke G's field review? Is he crying again now? I'm not quite sure what that's in relation to, but thank you guys so much for watching. Check us out there. Help us grow it. Be a massive help to us. Thank you for that. I thought we would start because obviously Ryan and Martin haven't been here for a while, but if you've listened to us after episode 1, I don't think we've really gone through a bit of who we are and why we're doing what we're doing. So I thought as it's an anniversary episode, it's the right sort of time to reintroduce ourselves for the new season. So just going to go around the room just to briefly describe who we are and why we follow Detroit. So I'll start. My name's Matthew Turner. I'm the host of the show. I started it out actually in April of 2020 as a blog at the insistence of my girlfriend, who was fed up with hearing about the Lions and said, why don't you write about it? You've wanted to do that for ages. So I did that. ROTLLionsUK.com was born. And then our former editor, Aaron Fletcher, on Ryan Farden's Facebook group, Detroit Lions Fans UK 1 Private Wide, and join that if you haven't already, said, who wants to make a podcast, boys? We all chimed in, and the podcast was born. I'm an accountant. I live in Bristol, in England. I've been a Lions fan since 2009. I got into it mainly because of Stafford being the number 1 overall pick. That's kind of when I started getting into the NFL. I love the colour of the Lions. I love the history of Detroit. The richest city in the world in the 1950s. I think Detroit is kind of emblematic of the United States as a whole. You know, when people talk about the US, I think of Detroit rather than other people might say New York or LA. That's not the US to me. So that's my journey with Detroit. Favorite moment is probably Golden Tate flipping into the end zone in overtime to win a game in the division. That was a cracking thing to watch. Let's now go over to Anthony Fitzpatrick. Introduce yourself, man.
So my name's Anthony. I've been with the podcast since day one this time last year. Can't believe how quick this has gone, to be fair. It doesn't seem 1 minute since we were sat around doing this with about 2 people listening to us, and now we've grown exponentially as we've gone, and it's a great thing. But yeah, so I've been supporting the Lions for about 6-7 years maybe now. Started off just I sort of picked Detroit as my city of choice when I was a youngster because I listened to Motown all the time growing up. Great music, so I thought any city that can really spawn, such a great scene of music was worth sticking with. So when I got into the NFL a few years later, I sort of automatically took the Lions on as my team. And even when I found out sort of they weren't the greatest franchise in the world ever, they sort of bear a stark resemblance to my football or soccer team, as you'll know it over there back home. You know, not the biggest, not the best, not had the most success in the world, and certainly been a lot more bad times than good. But I also understand that, you know, with teams like that, you have very passionate fan bases. You know, smaller communities, they're very welcoming, very passionate, and, you know, you get a lot of enjoyment out of it. And when the success does come, it makes it all the more sweeter. And that is what it's proven to be. You know, so far, everyone has really welcomed us doing this here and over the pond. And it's been a great experience. So hopefully we're going to see some good come this year. So yeah, let's go Lions.
Steve, why don't you pick it up?
Cool. Yeah, so I live in Edinburgh. Been a Lions fan for a long time. Been into the NFL on and off since kind of the Barry Sanders days. So obviously, like, was a big thing for me as a kid watching Barry Sanders in the Silverdome, and then met some friends who were visiting over in Scotland. Eric and Denise Hiroki from Saranac, Michigan, and they're mad Lions fans. Me and Eric talked a lot of Lions on that holiday, and just kind of really got me into it. So was able to go over and see a game. Amazingly, I can say I've actually seen the Lions beat the Packers at Ford Field. That doesn't happen very often, and it was in the Patricia area. It must have just been a miracle, that game. I can't really believe it actually happened. We actually beat them quite comfortably. It's just bizarre. But yeah, absolutely huge Lions fan. And, you know, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 months after you guys started that you asked me to come on the podcast. I was writing a column for the NFL Scotland, and I think you were under the impression I was some sort of expert on the NFC North, and I've managed to kind of blag it for 9 months.
So true. So true. Ryan McCluskey, why don't you pick it up, and then we'll come back to our two rejoining members.
Yeah, my name's Ryan McCluskey. I'm the newest member, signed as a free agent. So I don't actually even remember now how I joined you all. I think I saw you on Twitter, or I think it might be the Facebook group. Like, I just suggested, I'll write an article for you. Got added to the WhatsApp group, and then it just went from there. I come from the city of Bradford, so it's pretty grim up north. It's industrial. That pretty much sums it up. Like I say, I support a sleeping giant football team, let's call it, in Bradford. We've fallen on some hard times. We live our life as a bit of a big fish in a small pond. So I can kind of get along with, like, Detroit. I've been a fan for nearly 10 years now. I just remember those days staying up to get one game on Channel 4 with Nat Coombs and Mike Carlson. It was just one of them games. I think I saw it was like Sue, Cliff Averill, Stephen Tulloch. They were nasty buggers on defense. And like I say, as a player myself, last year I had no games because of COVID. So this year I wanted to get involved. Like, I had to feed my passion somehow. So I joined. I've never liked talking on camera. I don't really like sounding my voice, but it's amazing. I've come on quite a way since then. Done a fair few episodes. I think I joined in about February. So I've been here a fair few months now, and it's just been great ever since. My favourite moments, Stafford almost dislocating his shoulder, I think, against the Browns, swears at his trainers, comes back on, throws the game-winning touchdown, or also the monster season from 2011, where he should have possibly been an MVP or Pro Bowl, where he went over 5,000 yards. Those are some of the personal accolades. Him and the likes of my favourite Lions. You've got Barry, you've got Matthew, you've got Calvin, but also got a mind fart, Glover Quinn. Like I say, he's been one of my favourite Lions in recent years. I love defence. That's why I'm a big fan of Detroit, because I think that's something we've stapled ourselves on in the early years. I was a fan, but I think we're on a resurgence now. Hopefully, going to slowly turn a corner. And no, it feels like a bit of a family now. Actually, notifications never stop ringing, so it's been great, and it's been good for these times as well. Because like I say, throughout lockdown, like, it was nice to have someone to talk to and have the same passion and stuff. Like I say, I just get along with everyone. We're all spread all over, so it's been fun. It's been a good ride so far.
Yeah, it really has. Martin, I know you have a package possibly coming soon, so I'll come to you next just to get it in before then, hopefully. Why don't you reintroduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Martin Burrell. I live in Manchester, the unofficial capital of the UK. Anyone that knows anything about the UK will agree with that sentiment. The reason I first joined the group was because I felt it was a bit like an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, where you had to sort of come and share the same woes and the same frustrations and the same kind of reasons for wanting to be a Lions fan. I think I'm the only person to go into a travel agent in Manchester and ask for a flight to Detroit as part of my honeymoon. Still married now, incidentally, so must have done something right there. She did say that's the only person ever to ask to go to Detroit. But I love the city of Detroit. I worked there for 3 summers in Camp America from 2001 to 2004. So that's where my affinity with the city came from, really. Started pretty much more with an interest in the Tigers, because obviously I was there through the summer, so it's a summer game. And then as I got interested in the NFL, probably 5 or 6 years ago, obviously the only choice was the Lions, and you know, the struggles that the franchise has had, and you know, the fact that they'd never won a Super Bowl made it something that was really feeling as though I would like to be attached to, and something to look forward to. And then it's just been a roller coaster ride ever since. But you know, it's always, I think we're low in numbers in the UK in terms of franchise support, but it's certainly the most passionate for sure. Favorite moment, obviously it's a UK podcast, so I've got to call the Falcons Wembley game as a favorite moment. You know, that was right up there. Shame we didn't get to see them last year. Hopefully they'll be on the roundabout some point soon to come back over. We can all get together again and watch them. But yeah, that's it in short. Really glad to be back. I've had my period of being away, keeping the pessimism on a low burner, ready to get back in. So yeah, great.
Been recharging it.
Yeah, it's fired up and ready to go.
I know you had a brief holidays at Cornwall. How was it?
Yeah, it was all right. I mean, someone said to me, if you had to choose somewhere in the UK to go on holiday, if I held a gun to your head, what would you say? I said, pull the trigger. But then, you know, in reality, I probably, you know, it was a decent few days, but obviously with the UK weather, it's not very it's predictably bad. But yeah, hopefully get to go to Barcelona next week, so that's a bit of sunshine. Maybe we'll see.
Oh, Martin, I've missed your pessimism on
this. Not even started yet. Not even started.
And
We've
finally,
been too optimistic for too long.
Yeah. Last but not least, Ryan Farden. Reintroduce yourself, man.
Well, thank you. Good to be back. Good to see you all again, guys. And congratulations. You've kind of taken it on to new levels since we've been away, probably because people want to hear your positivity and not mine and Martin's negativity when it comes to it. But hopefully there's better days ahead for all of us with the Detroit Lions. But yeah, I'm probably a little bit like, if I wanted to describe myself to anyone in the Detroit Lions at the moment, I'm probably a little bit like Dan Campbell. You never know what's actually going to come out from me. And it's going to sound a bit weird at first, and then hopefully eventually it might make a tiny bit of sense or whatever. But yeah, been a Lions fan, I think, since around 2006, the year we actually went and lost every single game. Didn't get to watch the team as much because obviously they're never on TV, but stuck with them. A lot like the same as the other lads. Loved Motown, loved the history of Detroit in terms of what they did in the war, everything like that. Just a stacked full of history. So, and it's now basically an underdog city, unfortunately, from where it being like, you know, the top city in America. But hopefully we get back there one day soon in terms of, you know, our football as well. And yeah, just you know, like I say, I'm a little bit nervous now because you hear that there's 60 people listening to us every week. But you know, it's good to be back. And I don't know, I'm very lucky to go and watch the boys play quite a few times. I think I've been to 11 Lion games in total, 2 of them obviously in London, and hopefully planning to go this year to see him again. But you know, obviously with the problems that are ongoing, you just never know fully. But hopefully we'll get to see us get to LA and see us put Stafford on his arse anyway. So I'm hoping for that one and looking forward to beating Matt Stafford in LA.
Oh, if that O-line can actually keep him upright that long, I won't be surprised if he's injured by then, but you know, never mind. I know that you, Ryan and Martin, are not massive off-season guys, but did you kind of keep posted about the draft and how this off-season has kind of gone so far? Have you got any thoughts about which direction they went in terms of going tackle in the first round, that sort of thing?
For me, I mean, I wasn't surprised that they took Saul. I mean, I thought as soon as Chase was off the board, I thought it was going to be Saul. So I'm quite happy with that. I mean, obviously, you know, we're quite stacked in that O-line, so we're expecting big things from it this year. But you know, they did fill positions of need. I don't follow the college game as much, but well, basically, I don't follow the college game. But I did see a few things on the defensive tackle that we brought in, and I'm quite excited to see him as well. I think he could be a big surprise this year. So I'm quite pleased with direction. I like the energy that's there in Detroit. It's definitely, you know, full scale different to what it was last year. I mean, you know, didn't seem to be a happy place last year. This year, it seems like a lot of people are very happy, and you know, it looks like we have a plan. And I'm a big believer in the GM. So fingers crossed, you know, he'll make some off season, you know, cut the trades maybe as well, because I think we need some help at wide receiver as well. So hopefully, there's plenty more to come.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. I took a good interest in the draft. Obviously, the big question before was would we go for a quarterback or not? Obviously, I think for me that the draft told us all we need to know, that this is definitely a long-term process. We're not looking for, you know, an immediate success next season, but I'm fine with that. I trust that there's a good plan in place, and I think we'll definitely see some improvements next year, not necessarily in terms of games won, but I think, yeah, I was pretty pleased with the draft class, because you can at least see what the thought process is there and the way that the franchise is going to move forward. And I'm the same as Ryan. You know, I think we've done really well to bring in the GM the way we have, and I think he'll do a great job for us.
Just to say hello to a couple of people joining us in the chat on YouTube: Debt Fan Man, Lionsly, Omar Pacheco. Thank you, boys, so much. Appreciate you watching us live. It's really cool. So, got a bit of news to go through before we progress on to talking about press conferences, best moments from the pod in the first year, and I talk a little bit about preseason game 1. Lions are playing this Friday night. Can't believe it. It's come along so quickly. But let's start with the fact that the Lions are hosting a nickel cornerback called Nickel. Nickel Roby-Coleman has tested out with the Lions today. He changed his Twitter header. Per Ryan McCluskey of ROTL UK noticed that he changed his Twitter header to a lion, and, you know, was that a sign? Of course, which we jumped right on because it looked like it, but I haven't yet heard anything about him having signed with us. Someone mentioned that Corn Elder is apparently injured, but I can entirely miss that. Did someone have some more info on that?
All I've seen on Twitter is that he has got an undisclosed injury, and they haven't told us about the severity. He's still getting tests, but bringing him in for a visit does tell you that there's going to be some potential issue at dime or nickel corner, so this could be potential cover. And I'd say if he does sign, it's an upgrade as well, I think, because he makes a reasonable amount of tackles, so it won't be the worst. I'd expect with the whole Twitter header thing that they have talked personal terms before bringing him in, or if he's taking a medical wherever he's in the country. He's coming from Philly, so I'm not sure where he is, but there must have been some talk about his fitness, like I say, bringing him in. So I'm hoping it's just going to be like the process and the paperwork that he's doing. Like I say, I imagine he must be in good shape if we're going to even bring him in at this late stage. So
yeah,
we'll see. I like what they're doing. It's not a bad move.
You'd have to think so. We've got a need at nickel with Mike Ford taking the starter reps. He's obviously done quite well so far, but with you playing lots of nickel and dime packages, I think Roby-Coleman's going to see the field quite a lot if he does join. What does anyone else think about Roby-Coleman? Obviously played a lot of the Eagles.
Yeah, I think he had some mixed seasons at Buffalo, but I think his last season at Buffalo was sort of decent. And then I think he was 3 years with the Rams. And again, like, you know, if you look at his PFF grades, pretty good. And then last season with the Eagles was not great, but he was on a very, very, very bad team.
As long as he's not as bad as the last guy we got from the Eagles, then I'm all right with that.
Oh yeah, definitely second that. But wasn't he the guy who should have got called for that flag against New Orleans Saints in the final in the championship game a few years ago? Wasn't he the guy who hit Lewis or whatever it was for last minute play and never got called as a flag, and there was big uproar? think he was, wasn't he?
I think you're right, but I can't remember it for the life of me. I know the play. I just didn't realise it was him.
He seems like a definite Dan Campbell man then anyway, so, you know.
Yeah, I can definitely see it. A couple of other bits of news. So the Lions valued at $2.4 billion by Forbes, which is 30th among the NFL teams. They are ahead of the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals. I'd argue they're all on the way up. That's $4.1 billion less than the Dallas Cowboys, who are number one, America's team. If you as a capitalist country valuing wealth, the Cowboys are truly America's team with that valuation. So, but the less we speak about the Cowboys, the better. I'll move swiftly on. Calvin Johnson has been inducted into the Hall of Fame. In the speech, he thanked the city of Detroit and the fans of the Lions, but the team itself was absent in its mentions. At the same ceremony, Lions defensive tackle Alex Karras was posthumously inducted into the Hall of Fame as part of the centennial class of 2020. Should have happened 12 months ago, but due to COVID, that was delayed. Karras played 161 games for the Lions in the 60s and 70s, 9 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pros, 6 second-team All-Pros, was in the 1962 Decade Team, and is in the Lions Ring of Honor. He had 100 sacks in his Lions career. Both well-deserved, one long overdue, and one man who splits the fan base right now, shall we say, but certainly potentially the best or in the top 3 players in franchise history. So it's a happy day for the city of Detroit over the weekend, boys.
Yeah, I'm done with Calvin. I don't care anymore. Like, he can piss off. He don't give a shit about the team, but also the team. I read somewhere that about 3 years ago they offered him about $1.6 million to make all this go away, return some of that signing, and he declined it. Like I say, I think it shows. Like I say, he doesn't want a reputation. He don't want any relationship with the team. So I'm fine to just leave him be. Like, is what it is.
This will be the last pinch point for it, though. I don't think it'll really get mentioned again now. He's in the Hall of Fame. I don't really think there's any further for it to come back up again. I think it's just been a bit of a shame on both sides here that it's got to the way it has. But, we're moving on now. It's, we need to shed all the people of the past. Calvin, Stafford, they're gone. Brand new future here. A lot brighter looking one. Let's look forward and stop looking backwards.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, I think that he did show a lot of respect towards like the actual fans and the city of Detroit, but and the state of Michigan. But yeah, obviously there's still major issues there with the Lions. But as Ant said, it's time to move on now. He's got what he's wanted in the Hall of Fame, and at the end of the day, he got in the Hall of Fame for playing with the Lions. So maybe he should have a little bit of thanks for that. But obviously it's just a shame. But lots of things in life end bitterly. So this is just one of those occasions where it's like that.
I love the way that Ryan waited all of like 2 seconds then before just straight into fuck Calvin. Brilliant.
Yeah, fuck him. Go on, fuck Calvin.
Det Fanman's just said on YouTube, while he's about to start marketing his weed stores all over the city, he will be a local face and fixing his face with the team at the same time. They maximise his dollars. Just wait for him to be ready. Max, like Calvin is an airhead like a LeBron. Did I just say that? Unfortunately, it did. Not sure I agree, but there we go. Dan Pask is on Twitch, just saying happy anniversary, guys, and then saying I wish they had figured it all out. Dan, if people don't know, at Dan Pask on Twitter, probably England's biggest fan of the Lions. He regularly speaks on the Pride of Detroit POD cast, I think, calling in on their Green Room podcast and what have you. Really recognisable guy, lots of good opinions and comments and what have you, so really appreciate you listening to us, man. Antonio Jenkins is in the chat at work right now, but just stopping by. Thank you, everyone, for doing that. Right, roster moves. We have had a lot of news this week, and especially in the last couple of days. So, linebacker Reggie Gilbert has been released. He was replaced on the roster by the signing of nose tackle Miles Brown, who's a Cardinals UDFA from 2019. Played 9 times in his rookie year, but did not feature last year. Lions have activated Jalen Reeves-Maybin from the reserve COVID-19 list. They've also signed wide receiver Darius Jenkins and waived one of the guys I really liked in our UDFA class, center Drake Jackson. The Lions have also waived tight end Jack Houseman, and he's been picked up by the Jets? The Giants. Beg your pardon. Has there been any other news? I've been out of the loop for today, and I swear there's been something else that's just come out today, but I'll have a look Never mind. Anyway, those guys. So Drake Jackson is gone. He was only a centre, but he looked like he was possibly going to take the second team reps at that position. So he's out. Reggie Gilbert, the linebacker's gone. Miles Brown, Darius Jenkins in. And Jalen Reeves-Maybin is back. He's missed a lot of time. Thought he could play a big role, but now looks to be on the roster bubble. What are your guys' thoughts? Martin, you have not said too much, so I'm going to come to you first. What do you reckon, man?
Sorry, I just keep getting a really poor connection at the moment, so I can only make out little bits. I'm just trying to sort this out. But if you just repeat it, I can try and have a go at that.
That's okay. So Jalen Reeves-Maybin back after being on the COVID-19 list for a couple of weeks. Reggie Gilbert's been waived. We've signed Darius Jenkins, the wide receiver, and Drake Jackson, who was our backup centre's gone. Jake Houseman, the tight end, has also gone. Any thoughts on any of those guys, or
I think it's difficult at the moment, and I think we'll see a lot in this next few weeks in the practice games in terms of how some of these guys are going to fit into the system and the way that we're going to play next year. And it'd be really interesting to have that competition for places. I think at times last year, because of the injuries that we had, a lot of guys were just really settled in their positions, and it didn't have a lot of competition. And I think we definitely felt that at times. So yeah, I mean, I'll know more about some of them, I think, as we get through these next few weeks and see how they're going to fit in. But yeah, it's just nice to see it at this time of year, that we're still on the lookout for those additions that we can make and that we feel will make an impact, not just short term, but long term as well.
Yeah, it was just said in the chat by Det Fan Man that PJ Johnson was signed as well. So he was a Detroit Lions draft pick of 2019, and was fairly quickly waived after a training ground incident, if I'm remembering rightly. He had an altercation not too dissimilar from what happened with Amon Ra and Ifeatu Melifonwu, and the man with the pencil did not take kindly to such indiscipline, and he was quickly waived, but he is back, and hopefully he can do something here, so that's cool. Any other thoughts from the rest of you lads about the guys that have come and gone this week?
Go on, do you want to go first, Steve?
I think at some point someone in the media is going to do like a grade everyone's training camp. There's bound to be an article in the making, and I would say, obviously we've not had as bad a training camp as say the Minnesota Vikings. Goff's not building a plexiglass cabinet around himself or anything like that, but we do seem to have had a lot of injuries and a lot of people that have kind of just not really put on the pads a lot, and I'm not sure whether we should be worried. But there's quite a few kind of key people that don't seem to have really participated. So that's just, I guess, one thing to flag.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. Reggie Gilbert, I don't think he even turned up for the first 3 days of camp. He wasn't healthy. Drake Jackson doesn't offer any versatility. He's no good as just a backup centre. I don't think he had any prospects working outside, so I think they've let him go. Jake Houseman, we've got, say, 3 more tight ends, and Dan Campbell said today that tight end 3 is basically a Lee's Mac, but he needs to work on his special teams. Jake Wright is learning the game, and Charlie Ta'aupa'ama'eo, I probably just butchered that. Apparently he's got a very high IQ, but he's just very inexperienced, so I think that's a very stacked room. Darius Jennings is an interesting one. I'm pretty sure in 2018, he led the league. It was, I think, in kickoff average or yards. He's a special team dynamo, so he could be our actual returner this year. And I think it's safe to say that these are all good roster moves. I think wide receiver is still a huge worry for me. Pretty much, not a single of the top 3 guys turned up for that first day padded camp or were hurt. Amon Ra, and then you had Bolden, and below that, it's not great. I would make a trade, like Ryan said. I'd bring in a good receiver. I'm pretty sure. Who is it?
Denzel Mims.
Someone's a bit. Yeah, Denzel Mims available for trade. I say, I've mentioned Brandon Cooks, and I think it's one of the Jags guys as well. There's someone that's there for a second rounder. So there's guys that have potential to bring in possibly. And we've got cap to work next year, so I don't mind sacrificing a bit, because I do worry about the flexibility and how long if someone goes down with an injury.
I think we saw issues with wide receivers last year through injuries as well. And, we suffered badly as a result of that. And I think we seem extremely light there at the moment. And it's a real concern that going into the season, the depth that we've got there is really, really poor. But it's whether there's the right person to bring in at the moment, I think, and whether we're going to make that move. Because like you say, we've got that space next year to make sure that we get the right person in. Maybe I was surprised we didn't do anything in the draft really high up on wide receiver with it being such a need. But I get the point on strengthening the defense because it was so poor last season. But
it seems a long 3 years since our wide receiver room was Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, and Kenny Golladay.
Yeah, it's a big worry, no doubt about it. I mean, the first thing you see that stands out like a sore thumb is the wide receiver room. So, and when you're hearing that there's a great connection with Hockenson, that's great. I mean, but you expect that. Hockenson had his come out year last year, was phenomenal, and one, for me was probably our player of the season. But, it needs help and it needs to be improved because there are winnable games this season, no doubt, and we can have a much better year than what we did last year. But I think with that wide receiver call, we're not going to be able to get it done.
I think if you Jared Goff, you've got to be worried as well, haven't you? Because you've got some major weapons missing there. You're thinking that you probably only have one real season to make an impact to make sure that you are going to be the franchise quarterback. And then, if you don't have those key weapons in your offense, then, what chance are we actually giving him there? So, I take your point about, the relationship build up with TJ, like you say, but, those wide receivers are really big key missing players there.
Omar on the YouTube chat has just said that the Lions could get James Washington cheap, which I think was the guy that someone was thinking of. Yeah, Ryan. So I think that was the guy. Ant, what do you reckon on this one?
Yeah, I feel I've probably lost the right to have an opinion on the UDFAs since I picked out Jonathan Adams and Devontae Beckett as my two favourite ones, and one of them's been released and one of them's fallen off the face of the planet. So I think I've probably lost the ability to talk about them there, but I think probably just agreeing with what everyone else has said, it is the receiver room is a concern, although I disagree. I think there's still a lot of weapons there. We heard from Amos that Swift and Goff are getting on really well. He's getting on well with Hawk. Amon-Ra's the perfect type of receiver for him. So I think there is a lot of ability there, but I think it's just the outside where we're looking really thin. But if even one of them can do moderately well, I think we'll be okay.
I'm glad to see the Kool-Aids out in Chesterfield anyway.
Whoa. This isn't Kool-Aid. We've heard firsthand that he's getting on well with Hockenson. We've heard firsthand he's getting on well with Swift. Williams has 1,000 yards receiving in his career at Green Bay. We've got some decent options there. It's not going to be great. I've already said there's no wide receiver one in this team at all. There just isn't. There possibly might be not even a number two there, but there are slot guys, there are depth guys. We'll wait to see what we get from them, but I don't think it's the worst in the world. I still think we've got a better offense than the Bears have. Theirs is still shocking, so it could be worse, but it's not going to be great either.
Sorry, just to quickly ask, because I haven't kept up to date with it as much as I should have, so I apologise for that. But Amon-Ra is going to be this slot receiver, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing. Obviously, everyone's saying bring Golden Tate back, but don't, because just give Amon-Ra the reps there this year. I think this year is all about developing the youngsters. So I know you were chatting earlier about maybe trading for somebody else, but for me, give the young guys a chance this year, see what they can do, see what holes you can fill in that wide receiver core, and then go after the rest next year, be it in free agency with, over 40 million in dead cap coming off the books, or in the draft with our 2 first-round picks. So, yeah.
Someone's going to be cut eventually during this training camp. That will probably be a decent enough pickup. So I'm sure there'll be a surprise out there somewhere. So it's probably not all doom and gloom, but it's just an area of weakness, I would have said.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just about to say it's not going to be great. Don't get me wrong. It's not going to be pretty, but I think we could be slightly surprised. I think we could do all right there, especially with a lot of these guys in the middle, in the slot, out the backfield. But we wait to see.
The thing is, I think we knew for large parts of last season that we were going to be struggling in this area. So I think this is something that, Campbell and Brad Holmes have obviously thought a lot about, and just probably didn't think in the draft there was the right person to pick up, or wasn't the highest priority. So, I guess we just at the moment have to trust the process. A lot of the things at the moment have been quite pleasing. So let's just see what happens. Like you say, something might happen with the cuts in the next couple of weeks, and then see where we go.
Matt Patricia line, trust the
I was about
process.
to say, you can say fuck on this podcast, but trust the process is absolutely forbidden.
Yeah, and you can't say the other long F word. But I mean, we've done the trenches this year. I mean, I think there's a plan in place. Like I say, we've got a hell of a load of dead cap coming off next year. We've got higher draft picks, so we can go for the receivers then. All part of the rebuild, all part of the plan.
I think I actually buy the guys at their words when they said they were just going to take value in the draft wherever it was, and it just happened to fall in the trenches. I do not think that was part of a defined plan. I think if they thought a wide receiver had fallen, that they were going to take him wherever that was, and I think that's what happened with Amon-Ra. I think if Amon-Ra had been taken, I'm not sure they would have taken any wide receivers in this draft. So, let's see what happens. But I do think they've taken that very well-known meme to heart of the, you pick Saul and you can pass to anyone, or you pick Chase and your quarterback gets smashed in the mouth. They've taken that a bit too literally. I would love another wide receiver, but at the same time, not at the cost, like Ant says, of the rookies we've got. I would not mind us signing a starting outside wide receiver to perhaps replace or contend with Rashad Perryman, who apparently is having a good camp, but is, very boom and bust. Tyrell Williams comes in as a guy who, whenever he's played, and fitness is his problem, but whenever he plays, he's productive. He doesn't have down or up years particularly. He's had 1,000 yard season with the Chargers, but when he's played, he's always produced, not at the level of a number one, but he does well enough. But Perryman has very up and down years, couple of good years, one at Tampa Bay along with our wide receivers coach there, and now both are here. So fingers crossed he can get the best out of him. But another one to contend at that outside wide receiver spot would be very welcome. But if Amon-Ra loses reps, I'm going to be very upset.
Definitely. It should be the same with all the rookies this year. We've got a good draft class with talented guys here. Let's give them the game time, providing they earn it. That is what the rebuild is about. If you're not going to give your rookies game time, you're defeating the object straight away.
Yeah. There was actually something said in the chat about, how long do you think this retool is going to take? And there's varying opinions on this. If you listen to some of the beat writers, 3 years is a very popular thing to say. If you listen to a few more of the YouTubers, they think something can happen this year or next. So it was actually asked of us, what do you think is going to happen? And just very briefly, not to labour this point too much, but, how long do you think it's going to take before the Lions can, I'm not going to say contend as in like you're going to make them favourites for the division, but maybe not be mathematically eliminated by Thanksgiving would be a good start. Martin, let's start with you and go around the other way. What do you think?
Yeah, I knew you'd start with me. I can't see a playoff appearance in the next 2 seasons. I think that this is when you look at the depth chart, I think you're looking at a good 3 years seems about right. But again, as long as there's year-on-year improvements moving forward, and we've obviously got the draft picks that are going to be really beneficial there. I think all we just want to see is, under Matt Patricia, all we saw was very much 1 step forward, then 2 steps back. And I think as long as we're seeing, the progression there week on week, season on season, I'll be reasonably happy with that. I don't think anyone's expecting anything major in the next, certainly the next season, and then we'll see where we go from that. But I would imagine 3 to 5 years. 5 is obviously difficult to stomach because it's been a long time. But yeah, I would imagine no less than 3.
Do you feel positive about what's happened so far? I know no games have been played, but we can judge it on what's happened so far this off-season. Do you think it's going in the right direction so far in terms of the narrative, in terms of the signings?
Yeah, again, but all those questions will need to be answered on the field, won't they? We've had a lot of the same rhetoric talk over the years about, what we were doing and the way we were going and how well we trained and how well we looked on the field. I think we're a Super Bowl team on a training field for the last 20 years. So, it's about seeing that in action now. We've heard a lot of great things, particularly from Brad Holmes, but obviously Dan Campbell as well. But it's now turning those words into actions and seeing, because that's what we're all waiting for. We've waited for a long time. We just don't want to keep hearing the same things one year and then next year being in the same position where we're saying, well, we're a few more years off and it's a bigger job than we thought. If we're going forward in the right direction, I don't expect a winning season potentially in the next 2 years. So, Let's see. I know Ant's probably got a 17-0 season in place for next year, but I think we've. It's difficult to see where we are at the moment, a winning season for me, and certainly next season anyway, and then see what happens in the off season next year.
Yeah, okay, then maybe that's a good bar, a winning season rather than contending for the division. Ryan McCluskey, what do you think?
In 2 years, I want. Well, you can't go 500 now unless you get a tie, but roughly 500 in 2 years. I'd like double-digit wins 3 to 4 years, and 5 onwards, I want to be in contention for the division every year. That's how the progression I want to see. On paper, I'm positive, but that means very little. And pre-season as well, like I say, because we've seen us go forward in pre-season, and we know what happened then, don't we? Like I say, so week 1 will tell me everything I need to know. We're coming up against a big defense, an offense that has a ceiling, but I just want to prove, like say, that we can make teams respect our secondary passing game by stopping the run. Because, like I say, right now the defense, we're not respected. No one takes us seriously. We're expected to just roll over, and that is something that's just got to stop. Like, teams have got to stop taking us lightly. I want us to command a little bit more respect, and that can happen right now this year. I don't, like I say, wild card has to be the first major success, and I'd say 2 to 3 years where we just sneak into the playoffs. It's closer to 3. I think they're very realistic goals.
Hello to Don Burr. What up, though? Ryan Farden, what do you think, my man?
What do I think? I think there's a good chance within 2 years, to be honest with you. I mean, how I see it is if, this rebuild continues, in the way it's kind of started, there is positivity surrounding it. But the way I see it is that the Vikings, if they don't make the playoffs this year, I fancy Zimmer's out in Minnesota, which will bring on a big rebuild job there. And of course, then, the quarterback will probably be getting rid of there. So there'll be a big rebuild there in Minnesota. I think this is going to be Rodgers' last year in Green Bay, please God. And then, they struggle to replace him, then they're going to be struggling, and they're going to take a couple of years to get back into contention. And then obviously if Chicago don't hit it off and probably play Fields very early on in the season, they're going to probably be clearing house too. So there's a good chance here for Detroit if we obviously continue to build in the right way. I fancy that we could be winning the division within 2 seasons without a doubt, but it's going to take a hell of a lot of work, and obviously getting Rodgers out of Green Bay I would have thought as well. But I think there's plenty of room for positivity, but we've just got to keep on building block by block and doing sensible moves, which I think finally feels like we are doing. So there is definitely room for positivity. So but, a long way to go still. I think this year might be a bit of a struggle, but I expect better things to come definitely next season.
And Steve Collins.
Yeah, I think, there's lots of different moving parts in this. I think, first of all, we know we've got the draft capital coming up next year. But is that going to make an instant impact? Probably not. So when we get those first 2-round picks into their sophomore seasons, that's kind of like where you feel that there's a platform to challenge. And also the fact that obviously, Holmes and Campbell probably had to do this draft a bit on the fly, in terms of they didn't know the roster. They didn't know, who they wanted to keep long term. Whereas now, they've got the whole of this season is to effectively, give the entire roster a test run. Are they going to be part long term or not? So I think there's that opportunity, not this year, not next year, but the year after. That's when we compete. However, as Ryan's just pointed out, Green Bay are in their last or maybe last but 1 year of Rodgers. Cousins is out at the end of this season in Minnesota. Maybe not Zimmer, but if Cousins is out, there'll be a rebuild. Fields, we just don't know. Is he going to be a bust? Is he going to be the next incarnation of Dak Prescott, as the Bears fans seem to think? So potentially there could be a win now opportunity next year if things fall into place for us. I think for me, what I want to see this year, I just want to see some better football, because it wasn't just the 5-11 last year. It was really, really bad football. really dull offensive schemes, really hapless defence, terrible secondary, just watching us get burned. So I think what the fan base will want to see, they want to see some progression on the pitch. And that doesn't necessarily mean wins, but just better football.
Yeah, I'm right with you. Anthony Fitzpatrick, bring us home.
It's Martin coming back. I want him to eat my optimism, but damn it. He's gone. He's deliberately gone so he can't hear me be optimistic. Right, so the question for the retool, we can, and hear me out here, we can be competitive in 12 months. This time in 12 months, we could be fielding a very competitive team here. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of factors in play here that need to go right, but if you look at our offense, it's only at quarterback and at wide receiver one where we have big highlight, where we have big question marks at the minute. If we were, to have a decent season, if the guys were to come through, if we were to go in with our two first round picks next year, we were to get ourselves a quarterback, if Goff doesn't do well, and a proper wide receiver one or a good level wide receiver, suddenly our offense is really good. We've got the running backs, we've got the tight ends, we've got the offensive line, fullback, we're set. So we'll have a really high level offense. On defense, we've got a very competitive defensive line now with McNeil, who we've seen is going to be an absolute monster, Levi, Brockers. We've got depth there, something we've not had in a very long time. Then in the edge game, we've still got guys to come through from last year. Julian Okwara has done really well in camp. If he complements his brother, if the other edge guys, Harris is doing well, Flowers, if he has a good year, the edge lot is sorted. So if you put some of that, immense amount of cap we're going to have next year into the secondary, at safety, at linebacker, and you complement that to picks in the draft at quarterback and wide receiver, we could have a set team if players are reaching their potential. So there is absolutely no reason in 12 months why we can't have a competitive side. I'm not saying we're going to win a division, but we're going to be a team who's extremely tough to beat. If the potential in this team comes through, we've not got as many holes as people think. So for me, if we have a good year, it doesn't have to be lots of wins, but as long as it's progression in players and we have another good draft and another good free agency, we'll have a really competitive team. We're not going to have to wait 5 years for success for sure.
I will see your optimism and I will raise you. I think that we can have a winning season. It's going to be tight. I think 9 and 8 could happen. It's going to be tough, but I think the main problem with this team wasn't offense; it was defense, and the main problem with the defense was the secondary. This safety team, this cornerback team, all working as a fundamental unit. They didn't talk to each other. They didn't play as a team. They're putting in a scheme which the players are naturally more suited to in the split safety look. The cornerbacks, Okuda apparently is having a monumental camp. I don't think it can be overstated how well he's playing compared to how he played last year. He's starting to look like the guy that we were hoping we had drafted. Now, does that mean that he's going to play at that level? Not quite sure. Martin, I'll get to you in a minute. I can see you've raised your hand. You stay right there. I'm on a roll. Amani Oruwariye, he is having a much better camp than you might expect. We've got Aaron Fletcher's favourite player, Tracy Walker, who apparently is having a very, very good camp back there. And Will Harris is actually apparently resembling a football player, which is a massive leap from where he was. So, he's got the outline of a football player. Never mind that. Our defensive tackles, we have returned all of our starters from last year, and they are all our backups now. So that defensive tackle room is far better than it was last year. Linebacker is obviously potentially an issue, but apparently Collins and Anzalone, who are the presumptive starters right now, have developed a good chemistry. They're taking responsibility for each other, and they can both play Mike linebacker, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but a big part of an offense is identifying the Mike, who's got responsibility for that defense, and making sure that he can't have an impact on the game. Well, if it's always Collins, well, that's going to be easy to sort out. But if they're both on the field, it's going to introduce something else for the offense to think about. It's only a minor detail, but when you mix it up with everything else, and a coaching staff determined to actually make things difficult for the offense, which is something we haven't done for so long, I think this defense can start playing better than the sum of its parts. Whereas we actually lacked in quality and we played worse than the sum of our parts in previous seasons. So that on its own will be a big difference. Now, does that add up to a winning season? Maybe not. But I'm saying if we're lucky on top of all of that, I think it's possible. And that's what I'm asking for, is it for it to be possible. So, Martin, you've waited a long time. Eat me. Come on. Kill me.
Sorry for the delay. I was just booking flights to LA. I haven't listened to you two for February, so I'm all sorted now. I've got my seat ready for the Super Bowl. What I would say is, I would love to agree with you, but I think if you look at a couple of things, if you look at the offense from last season compared to the offense as we go into this season, I don't see how we can turn a 5-11 into a winning season with the issues that we've already talked about there. The defense is going to need some time to come together as a unit, I think. But then if you look at the schedule as well, the schedule is not the easiest. And I think that's where I've got an issue with saying a winning season. I think we'll shock a few teams, and I think we'll improve as the season goes on. But in terms of a winning season, next year, looking at that roster, looking at that schedule, I think it's going to be tough. I like where the bye's positioned this year. I think that's going to be really, really good for us, a really good spot coming in, I think, beginning of November. But yeah, I just look at some of the games we've got, and we've got a tough start. And then it's how, maybe that's not the worst thing in the world, because, the team's obviously coming together under a new coaching staff, etc. as well. So, you wouldn't expect to win in Green Bay or probably to beat the Ravens at Ford Field. So yeah, I just think it's a big ask to say that team's going to turn around from a 5-11 with a tougher schedule to and a weaker offense with Goff instead of Stafford, with the issues we've got at wide receiver, to say that that's a winning season. I think it's a stretch. I'd love to see it, but I think it's a stretch. In terms of what Ant said about next year, I think next year there's more of a chance of that, certainly with the potential. But then you take on board what Steve said about you can draft well with those 2 first rounders, but you wouldn't expect those 2 first rounders to make an immediate impact straight away. So it may be that takes a little bit longer. That's where I am with that 3-year projection.
Fair. Just a few comments from YouTube. We've got Don Burr saying, my One Pride family is worldwide. If you want One Pride worldwide chat, you know where to go. The Facebook group exists for you. It's a smaller group than those other ones on Facebook full of toxic fans. You'll see none of that there. Det Fan Man says, yes, progression on the pitch. I think that was responding to Steve's comment earlier. Carl Campbell says, great show, guys. Thank you very much. Omar says, our front 7 is effective. Our corners and safeties will be okay because our coaching is 10 times better, and coaching is everything. That's why the Lions will win more this year. But Armac has responded with, he's glad weed is legal over there. I bet you are. Steve, you've been waiting patiently.
Yeah, just picking up on that point actually in the chat, and also just talking before about the defense and the secondary. I think the buzz is that out of all of the Lions coaching hires, Aaron Glenn might be the best one. Everyone's, it's early days, but people are talking about him as a future head coach, and that he's a guy that is just really, really smart. And I think when we've had a few guests from the Detroit media, they've all picked up on that point. Just a note of caution though. When he took over the secondary at the Saints, in his first season, they were 31st in the NFL. And I think they had 284 average yards per game throwing against them. Yeah, he did get them to be a top 5 passing defense in his final season. But that was 5 seasons it took him to get there. And he had Marshawn Lattimore. So I think for people that are saying our defense is going to be, top 15 this year, I just don't think it is. And I think we absolutely should be average on defense by the end of this season. But I still think it's probably going to take a couple of years. I think Okudah will come back, and I think we'll probably draft again in that area, but not this year. I don't think this year is realistic, even with Aaron Glenn.
To be honest with you, I was going to jump in, just actually say about Aaron Glenn is that's the one guy that I have actually been mostly impressed with like, you know, what I've kept up to date with. There's something about him, and I completely and utterly agree. I think that, you know, given the time and everything like that, he will get this you know, turned around for us. And I'm a firm believer in him. I really like his coaching style, and I believe that he could actually be, you know, definitely a head coach down the line. And please God, he will be, because that's mean we're having success. But yeah, no, I'm definitely just echoing that point there, Steve. I completely not agree with it.
But I think, you know, every great defense starts with its front seven, its defensive line, and ours is a lot better now. For years, it's been substandard, it's been poor, it's been non-existent. You know, quarterbacks have been able to stick up sun loungers and throw off them because we just don't rush them. But this year, you know, we've got a proven leader in there in Michael Brockers. We've got, you know, returning guys. Deshaun Hand is apparently balling out, and, you know, if he returns to his potential, it's huge. We've got a thoroughbred nose tackle now who's going to dominate guys in this league. We've got disruptive guys there. We've got depth guys. Like Matt says, our starters are now backups and are fighting for their jobs. If you can nail that this year, I mean, again, it doesn't have to translate into wins, but if you get them playing well and getting after quarterbacks, that's going to raise the stock of the rest of the defense, which has been woefully underprotected over the years by them. It's just they've been left to fry at the hands of all these, you know, play action pass quarterbacks who just, you know, do what they do. And you're forgetting we've got guys like Julian Aquara to come back as well, Akuda to do better. We've got a lot of room at cornerback. If you can fix that defensive line, which we've put a lot of stock into, you're well ahead in the rebuild. And we've got a lot of money to not go after rookies next year, but after proven guys to fill those gaps. So I don't think it's a stretch that in 12 months it could still be a thing. I don't think it will take as long. He's got his most important assets now. All he needs to do is develop them. And, you know, he's shown that he can do that.
Yeah. Just a comment from Omar, and this fits into actually something we're bringing to you, I think, starting next week. Omar Pacheco says, does anyone know who the top wide receiver prospect is for next year's draft? Well, the Roar of the Lions UK College podcast is coming out, I think, starting next Wednesday with our very own Ant and Ryan McCluskey. Boys, you're the experts. Top wide receiver pick for next year's draft so far?
Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave. You've got the two Ohio State wide receivers. They are the best duo in the league.
Yeah, I think Garrett Wilson's going to be the guy, but Olave might not be far behind. But Wilson projects to be the complete wide receiver in all aspects of his game. So watch him closely, and if he's there, and, you know, snap him up, because he'll be a hell of a player. He'll be a wide receiver one for sure, which is something that we need.
Martin?
I was going to say Olave, I think, would have been a first rounder this year if he declared, from what I was reading. So, yeah, I think that's definitely a position for us for next year, I think.
Izzy777 says, hey, y'all. Hey, man, how you doing? Dan on Twitch has said, I think Messi leaving Barcelona is like Brockers leaving the Rams and Prater leaving us. Do you think we should have let Prater go? Do you think our starting kicker is currently on the roster? In training camp, we have been hearing that kicker has been an issue, and, you know, Randy Bullock has had a good camp up until Saturday when he was in the stadium where he's actually going to be kicking and couldn't hit a barn door, couldn't hit the ground. You know, pretty poor. Ryan McCluskey, what do you think? Is Prater leaving us like Messi leaving Barcelona, and is our kicker here right now?
It's not like Messi, but letting Prater go is ridiculous because Fat Randy's useless. Like the guy's crap, and the other dude, Matthew Wright, like it's in between them. Those posts could be 40 feet wide. They still won't kick them. We need a kicker badly because neither of them two. I don't want to touch them with a barge pole because they can barely kick third with them one. No, it's very worrying. Like I don't know what happened with the breakdown. I know Prater was a bit shaky inside 40, but from 50 he's the man. And the Lions sometimes barely get 40 yards out. We have to take long field goals. We can't trust a guy to kick from more than 45 yards. Got no place on this team. And both of them went 0-4 from more than like 44. So no, get rid of them. Or keep them and just replace them, but they've got to go.
What about you, Ryan? Oh, sorry.
It's definitely not Messi leaving Barcelona. I can guarantee you that. But it's it's obviously if anyone's missing field goals, it's a major concern. But it seems to be that they'll always find a good kicker eventually. I mean, Prater, I wasn't overly bothered about losing him, to be honest with you. I mean, I know he had a good few years, but you'll find a good kicker. You will find a good kicker. So it's just, if this guy ain't the one, we'll find someone else. And I don't see it as being a major issue personally. And who knows, he can still come good. He's still a decent enough kicker, but I understand what the guys are saying, especially what Ryan's saying, that Prater did bail us out. Was it Washington where he got a humongous kick from, 50 odd yards, and he's broken the record before in his days in Denver or whatever. But and he done that amazing kick in New York. I was actually at it for it when it hit the crossbar and went over just slightly. So yeah, a loss, but I wouldn't say a major loss personally. Just we'll get that position right eventually. You know what I mean? So I don't think it'll take long.
Martin, you were going to say something there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I would have liked to have seen us keep him because it was a position where I know he had a difficult year last year, but I feel it was a position we were relatively comfortable in. And, we had good confidence in nailing some of those kicks where we were in a close game. So, yeah, disappointed to see him move on. And, it's another position where we've got to try and have a mess around. But I take your point that we, we've got time to try and sort that out. But again, I'd much prefer to have kept him on.
Just quickly stop to say, please like, subscribe, follow us on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, what have you. Hit that like button on YouTube as well. That would really, really help us out. For myself, with Prater, I think he's a franchise legend. I think he's been here long enough and been successful long enough over a long period of time that he could go in the Ring of Honor. It's only been, I know that the Lions are known for their kickers with Hansen and what have you, but Prater is right up there, and he had one down year and we've let him go. Dan says his comparison is based on the fact that they didn't have the money to pay him to let him go, but in terms of how much they're paid, it's different stratospheres really. But yeah, I got to admit, it probably does come down to value for money in terms of the reason why I let him go. But you know what, $4 million on Prater's worth $1.75 million on Randy Bullock, especially when Bullock just, he's maybe one of the league's best kickers from inside 35 yards. Well, what good is that? Why? Who cares? And back me up.
You know what? I'm not too fussed about the decision to let him go. Yes, he's great over 50, but there was a decline in his under 40 last year. He's only going to get older, and we're not going to be competing that. Well, according to most on here, it's going to be 2 or 3 years to compete. Do we really want to wait maybe 2-3 more years of good Matt Prater, and then when we're competing, he's regressed to the point where he could cost us vital matches within the 40 if he's missing out? For me, it's a position where, if we start the rebuild now, we get a younger guy in who can come and do the job, then, when it comes to the time when we're ready to compete, we've got our guy here. I'm not too fussed about it, really, to be fair. I think, it does save us a bit of money. I'm not hopeful that the two guys who are in now are going to replace him, but I would be worried about still having Prater here in a couple of years when kicker matters. And if he's still dicky within 40, that could be a big problem for us. I think, Dan mentioned in the question there as well about, was it Brockers as well, about the things there. I'd say Brockers is going to be, now this is maybe a bit of an older one here for the football guys, but I think he's going to be our Claude Makelele, our guy who's not going to let anyone through in that midfield. He's going to absolutely hammer guys who are getting through, and he's going to hold it all together. I think, Brockers is huge. He is a big marquee signing for us, and he's going to be huge going forward, especially for the development of that defensive line. So I'd liken him to a football team gaining a great player. But yeah, with Prater, I'm not too fussed.
Steve?
If you look at the stats, Prater missed 4 field goals from over 50. He made 6, missed 4. So, and I think he only missed 3 field goals other than those below 50 yards. He did miss 3 extra points though. And I wonder whether it was that kind of lack of concentration that maybe sort of did for him. All I'll say on Prater is I really like the guy. I thought he was a great dude to have in the team. And Randy Bullock, I'm just kind of underwhelmed with. If you look at his stats from last year, they're kind of slightly worse than Prater's.
Ow, my leg. Sorry. That awful field goal.
Yeah, but I mean, you just look at the amount of field goals he attempted, and they obviously just didn't have the confidence in him. So I'm kind of, out of all the stories that have come out of training camp, this is one that's probably more concerning because we need a good kicker.
I think one final thing just to say about it is, hopefully in a position in a few years, we're not going to need a kicker who's constantly been asked to hit from the 50. We're going to have an offense that can get down the field and score regularly and take the pressure off one, because we've relied on Prater far too much over the years with offenses that just can't get to the end zone. So hopefully now that he's not here, the emphasis is on getting in for touchdowns instead. We're not going to have a cold, stale offense anymore, which is going to require such long kicks to be made.
Right, I'm going to move the chat on, so I'm going to speak a little bit now about the press conferences which have been happening in the past couple of days, just do a quick recap of that. But first, Izzy777 says, speaking of big, Ali McNeil is going to beat up all three offensive linemen when they send on him 24/7. I think you'll find Ant agrees with you there. The only person that can take him on apparently is Quentin Nelson, and of course he's not in the action for at least 5 to 12 weeks, so... I'm right with you with Aleem, though. He's looking like an absolute monster. Right, press conferences on the 6th of August. Julian Aquara, Halapoulivaati Vaitai, Ife Melifonwu, and Hank Fraley all talked to the media. Just to pick out a couple of things that was said by all of them. Aquara highlighted how fun it is to have a load of Notre Dame guys here all together. He said that Trey Flowers is a crazy athlete, and do not underestimate how well he can do at linebacker covering running backs, because he can do it out there. He said they're excited to learn and perfect this defense, excited to be out here and change how this organization's been the past couple of years, and he can't wait to play in front of a full stadium, because despite the fact he's been here for a year already, he hasn't actually played in front of fans yet. Vaitai, he said about his injury that it was unfortunate that, he couldn't fight through it as much as he'd like to, but looking forward, you've got Penei Sewell and guys coming back. He's super excited to do it. He said in terms of production and injuries, he said, I can either let it go to my head or work through it and get my paycheck. I've got 2 kids at home, and, I've got a big motivation to actually make this work. Taylor Decker's been helping him out, helping him fight through the injuries, but everyone's a big boy and, he can do it. He said he's not worried about the preseason game on Friday. He's just worried about practice tomorrow and getting 1% better every day. If the team can do that, then they will be great by the time the season starts. Melifonwu said he's just trying to be a sponge and absorb what he's been taught. He never played inside at college, so obviously a lot of the talk about Melifonwu is that he's going to be a slot corner against maybe tight ends in particular sets. He said he's never played inside at college, so he's got no problem with it, but he's just trying to learn the technique. The receiver types are different there, and the route tree changes. So, it's a bit of a learning curve for him. In terms of his fight with Amon-Ra, he said, we're good, there's no problem there, and he expected coach to react like that regarding the fight, being fired up about it. He said, what's on the field stays on the field. In terms of Fraley, everyone's favourite coach at the Lions, he said, for the players, this is the best they're going to feel until the end of the season right now. So if you're feeling a slight injury, you've got to push through it, because you're not going to feel any better through the season. He said the players on the team right now have got the right mentality for that. For Penei, he said he's progressing well, he's working super hard, he's communicating well with people, and Romeo and Julian are really testing him, and they're both making each other better. He said, we're trying to build something special here. This room is fun to come and work with every day. We're a pretty young room compared to the rest of the league. These guys will mesh well. It's a close group. They're like family, and they're holding each other accountable, but they're picking each other up afterwards too. Lots of interesting stuff there to go through, especially because Hank revealed his nickname in Philly was Honey Buns, which I thought was an especially interesting nickname. Is there anything out of those little quotes that someone's found particularly interesting or noteworthy? No.
I'm gonna do a rare thing here and join Martin's corner, and I'm gonna say, I've heard enough words now. They've passed the test with me in terms of saying the right things, saying they understand the situation, but they can talk all they want about how they're developing and how they're getting better, but until I see it on the field, it's not happening. So, I'm just waiting for the season to start now at this point, and I want to visually see the rookies get better on the field and test each other. Interviews now not really doing much for me in terms of this.
I'm definitely looking forward to seeing Jeff Okuda this year, based on some of the noises that are coming out from him. I know we said similar last year about TJ in his second year, and we were all pretty pleased with how he went last year. So I'm expecting that kind of improvement from Okuda this year as well, and hopefully he can be the player we all hoped he was when we drafted him.
I'll just move on swiftly to Dan Campbell's press conference from Saturday. So this was the day where the Lions had their open training session at Ford Field, family day. Campbell himself had a bit of a day behind the mic. I don't know if you've seen his little hype speech, but it is a bit inspiring, asking the fans to pour the gasoline on the fire for them. It was pretty cool. I felt like I was ready to run through all for him. He said about Ant's favourite player, Tyrell Crosby, he said he's fine. We just want to take care of him and be smart with him. He's had a good 2 weeks of camp, and we didn't want to ruin him any further. Cephas was out for that. He pumped his head on the ground, but he's going to be okay. And Rashad Perryman had a hip. He landed on it hard, doing a spectacular catch a day before. Said they were a little short at DB as well. In terms of a lack of wide receivers on the team, he said that Hock's showing up once again, and that makes me feel good. Fells also made a couple of plays today. And then Jamal Williams, he said there's more to him than just running the ball. In terms of the speech, he said it's just the first thing that came to his head. It's not that he just thought of it before he got on the mic, but it's exactly how he felt, and he just wants to verbalize it. And he said in terms of people putting the pads on, obviously we've had training camp, and they've just been walkthroughs and unpadded stuff. He said the competitive settings change everything. Some people, they're not good out of pads, but as soon as they put the pads on, get the competition in front of them, they just change and they switch, and they're looking to see who those players are. But those players who are good out of pads, but when the competition comes, they shy away from it. They want to identify those players quickly and get rid. So this is make or break time for a load of guys who might have been having a good camp so far. It might not be happening in the next, couple of weeks at the end of camp and these preseason games. You could see a lot of changes. So I think when it comes to everyone else talking, you can take it or leave it. But Campbell doesn't know how to lie. He doesn't know when to shut up. He just reveals pretty much everything that he's thinking about. And I don't know about what's being said, but it's just so refreshing to hear it. I know we say it every time he speaks, but it's awesome. I love it. Martin.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously the worry with that you can end up looking stupid if it ends up, not going the way you want it to. And he is a talker. And to be fair, I saw him at Ford Field at the weekend. Did look very much like something from the WWF. So we'll see what we'll see what happens. It's all about actions now, isn't it? We're coming into the first preseason game this weekend. We've heard a lot of noise. We've heard a lot about biting kneecaps. We need to now start seeing something moving forward that tells us we're in the right direction and we're going the right way. And I think everybody will jump on board with that the minute we start to see that.
Yeah, I would just say, I think that, it should be a given that everyone in every training camp in the 32 teams across the league are fighting for their job. But I think he's definitely sounded them all out and made sure that we're not going to be carrying anyone this year, and you're either going to be contributing to the team or you're going to be out on your arse. So I definitely think he's got them fighting. There's definitely going to be no lack of grit in this team and determination. So I'm excited to see this preseason game. And honestly, I mean, probably since the start of the Patricia era, and I know no one wants to talk about him, but obviously it was a new guy in, so you want to see what's happening. But I'm looking forward to this game against Buffalo. So I'll definitely be tuning in for that one.
And listen, I think the thing that we're all looking forward to is, there's so many times last season where we'd go into the locker room or, we'd have a timeout and the person speaking to the players was Matt Patricia. And I think, there was that lack of passion and direction, particularly towards the back end of his time with the Lions. And I think we won't get that with Dan Campbell. We'll get somebody there that will really pump those players up. And sometimes that can give you that extra 1-2% that's needed. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And let's hope it translates to the results that we want.
Yeah, because, of course, we did get plenty of good starts last year to games. I mean, there's plenty of games where we got off to a really quick start and we looked really good. And then literally our third or second drive, I mean, it all went to shit for the rest of the game. But, that's definitely one thing that, I fancy he's going to be. I fancy he's been like a Bruce Arians kind of hire, someone who's going to be a player's kind of coach, someone who's going to really pump them up and keep them going and drill them hard, with things, and like let the coaches kind of coach, like Arians allows Todd Bowles to kind of do his thing and everything like that. So I think there's a lot of faith in the coaches, and everyone's got their role, and they're gonna give it their best shot. That's for sure. There's a lot more confidence there with these guys from me anyway.
I'd definitely like to see the stats on first quarter leads last year, because I'm pretty sure from memory that we had, like you said, some really good starts there and just couldn't build on them or faded away for whatever reason that was. But yeah, fingers crossed. I don't think we'll learn a great deal from this weekend, but it'd be nice to see the Lions back on the field if nothing else.
I think the thing last year was that Patricia never had a plan B, and he never was able to make any adjustments. And every time we came out in the third quarter, we completely got out coached because he just wasn't able to make the adjustments to the changes that the other team had made at half time. So, that's going to be a blessed relief that we don't have to deal with that shit this year.
What I want to see from Dan Campbell on game days is I want to see him take a step back. I want to let the coordinators do their job, because Patricia never let that tip that we signed from Philly even call plays on defense. He just barged in and didn't even give the guy a chance. So he's going to have to sit back, do his time management, his timeouts. Because like I say, clock management is something in Detroit that we've not had for about 10 years. No idiot knows when to call a timeout properly, or they don't know when to stop the clock and manage challenges, etc. He just needs to be that calm, level head on the field. It can be the excited puppy cheerleader on the stands. I don't want to see that on the field unless there's a big play. I think he'll know when to tone it down. And I think, like say, Aaron Glenn and the likes of Anthony Lynn, they're experienced guys, they're going to be able to step up, do their job. And he's got ultimate total faith in them. Patricia did not trust our coordinators whatsoever to do their jobs. And he was so brash and bossy. He felt he had to step in all the time. And that was ultimately his demise. So we're going in a total different direction now.
Yeah, I think you go from that Patricia mindset, obviously similar kind of thing, being a first-time head coach, and then, with the Patriots background, I think he felt that he'd done that and he could call those much better. But obviously that was a bit of a disaster. But yeah, I think it really is about seeing now how Dan Campbell translates his personality into that day-to-day game management, because that's where we're obviously going to make those strides that we all want to see.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about Dan Campbell, is that for me, he just appears humble. The sort of, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I'll find the guy who is, and then when I'm in charge and could tell someone to speak for the team, I'll find that guy and let them do their job. So I think that's what's happened, and that's one of the reasons why I'm really confident this year. Of course, we are talking about week 1 of preseason. That kicks off this Friday night. Lions at Bills. At Bills or at Full Field? I can't remember, actually. I think it's at Full Field.
Bills. Yeah. Full Field. That's a Full Field, I think.
Okay. So that's at
midnight.
It is at midnight UK time, 7 o'clock Eastern time, if you want to tune into that. I believe that if you are in the UK and you use NFL Game Pass, that is free for preseason. So if you don't want to buy that, you should still be able to watch the game. I'm going to move our chat on now, unless anyone wants to just have a final comment about what we've been talking about. All right, move it on to just something a little self-indulgent to finish up. Best moment of the pod in year 1. So it is our anniversary if you're only just tuning in. It's a year to the day since we all started doing this. And I just wanted to take a moment of reflection to think about maybe one moment that stands out to you as something notable. It could be sad, it could be happy, it could be a particular guest or a slip of the tongue that just sticks in your mind. Let's go to Ant first. What do you think, man? What really, if you think about what has happened with the podcast so far, what's the first thing you think about as a thing?
I don't know. I suppose for me, it's been about the development of this podcast from what it was to what it is now. I think the big part for me is when we did all the draft stuff, when we combined to make up that schedule, we did the coverage of it, we got all the guests on. I think then for me, we sort of broke a wall then. We got a lot of new people on board, and it sort of began a summer where we've been very hard at work, a lot of new content coming out, a lot of stuff. And I think for me, that was the turning point, more from it being sort of I say a thing we do once a week to a proper hobby for me. So yeah, I enjoyed that quite a lot.
Great. If you haven't seen our draft coverage, it's still on YouTube. We had, I think, 26, 27 guests. I think 24 from around the league and a couple of Lions fans too, including Spain's biggest Detroit Lions fan in Roberto Rico. So that was really cool. Go and watch that if you want to see some really cool stuff. We were live streaming, I think, for about 21 hours in the weekend. It was a big endeavor. It was really, really cool. Steve, what about you, man? What do you think about the 1 year of the pod?
Yeah, I think there's been a couple of things. I think, first of all, it's just fantastic in terms of how the kind of Detroit family of over there have taken like a bit of a shine to us, and the kind of access that we've got not only from people in the around the sort of Lions media, but also just a lot of the kind of Lions fans over there have just kind of given us such nice feedback. Like speaking about the NFL from over in the UK, I always feel slightly kind of like fraudulent that we're just kind of like blagging it, but then to be given the feedback by the guys over in the US, and you guys know your stuff, and that's the best feedback that we could possibly get. I just want to echo what Ant said about the draft, because I think that's where the podcast really came of age, and there was just a really beautiful moment in the draft where we'd had so many different guests on, and it was as though like all these different guests had come onto our pod, they'd talked about their teams, and there was this real kind of sense of unity, NFL fans all together, bonding, creating this just like incredible sort of inclusive atmosphere. And then CJ from Viking New World Order came on and shouted out, "Fuck the Packers." And it was just a beautiful moment for me.
I knew you were going to say that. I did. Ryan Farden, what do you think, man? 1 year.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, it's honestly, since the end of the season, the way that you guys have taken it on to new levels has been really amazing, and especially the Dave Burkett episode was fantastic. So you guys definitely deserve a lot of credit, especially the time you put in. I know me and Martin don't put in as much time, but you guys have really taken it up to another level, and it's fantastic work. It really is. And I just wonder how you find the time to go and get drunk half the time, to be honest with you. But but yeah, it's been some great memories. Even when throughout when I was involved during the regular season, I enjoyed having my good friend St. Clair on from Detroit, and just nice speaking with another fan, like you say, and hearing other people's opinions on things, and you do see things differently, and that's what's great. I think we all see things a little bit differently on here, and we all have different views in it, but we all ultimately want the same thing, and that's the Lions to lift the Lombardi one day, and hopefully we'll all be there to see it. But it's been a great year, no doubt about it, and hopefully we just get better over the next 12 months. That'd be great.
Just to answer your question there, Ryan, about when we have time to get drunk, that's what regular football over here is for. We have enough times when we have to get drunk to blot out those memories as well.
Yeah, I think we all support teams that kind of, allow us to get drunk, even if they're the biggest in Manchester United or Arsenal, or I say Arsenal or Liverpool or Chesterfield or Bradford or whatever. But yeah, when you lose, you get drunk. So being Lions fans, we do that a lot anyway, obviously.
Omar Pacheco says, remember the 10-7. And I said 10-7. He said, that's the Lions record this year. I hope you're right, man. I hope you're right. Ryan McCluskey, 1 year of the pod. What stands out to you?
Well, I don't really know anything I don't know a lot about the first 6 months. So I can only comment on the 6 months I've been here. But I think everyone seems to say it's grown, it's gained a lot of momentum in this time. So I'll take everyone's word for that, but I think it's just been it's been actually really fun, because I've always thought I've played the sport, I've learned it, learned defensive, but I thought for years no one cares about this game really outside in this country, but it's really opened my eyes how many people especially not as just Detroit, but everyone there's people that do genuinely want to hear and talk about this. And I say, it's been great talking to people. I don't remember his name, but from the draft it was the Washington fan. He was funny. He was proper passionate.
Andy Burrows, I think that was.
Yeah,
I know this guy from America. Yeah, looked like he's in a casino. He was hilarious. Luke G, and as Ant said, like, and everyone said, like, it's like people in America now, like, kind of like whispering, spreading the word, like, hey, these guys in the UK that kind of know what they're talking about. Like, it's not just for show. Like, and I think it's become really easy now to reach to people and talk to people. Like, say we've had 3, a former, a current, and like a potential future player. Like, and that don't just come easy. Like, they're obviously like feel like they've got an untapped market here to talk to the UK, and I think it can only bode well for the future. Like, there's going to be more and more people that want to talk to us and just hear what we have to say. So here's to the next year.
Dan on Twitch has just said, thank you for a great year. Looking forward to the next one. He said he started when Ryan did, so we joined together. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Martin, 1 year of the pod. What stands out to you now?
I think what makes this pod, stand out from the other Lions pods is obviously it's a UK one, so it's UK fans. And I think my favourite part, even though I wasn't on those episodes last year, were the episodes with fans from other NFL teams when we were playing them. I really like that perspective in the game and the discussions around that. I thought they were really good and a really great listen. And credit to you for arranging those. I thought they were brilliant. And obviously you get that viewpoint on your own team from other teams as well. So I thought that was really great to hear. And obviously, like Ryan said, the work that's gone in between, the last time we were all on the pod to where it is now has been fantastic. And I think, it's added a great deal of credibility to the podcast with the guests that you've managed to get on, and they've been a great listen. So yeah, let's see what the next 12 months, let's see what we're saying when we're sat here in 12 months time, with Super Bowl rings, and let's see what we're saying going into the next one.
Yeah.
Well, you booked your flight, so you're sorted. I'm just booking mine now. I'm just getting on British Airways and booking the flight over. You've made me drink the Kool-Aid.
Why do I feel like that's disingenuous? Just a hint, but
one day it's got to be true. So let's see. Why not? I mean, you think about where I went to the Bucks game at Tottenham a couple of years ago, and they were, as far from a Super Bowl winning team that day as I've probably ever seen. So, you never say never if I'm supposed to be leaving with a tad of optimism with you today. So I will say never, but it's been great to also share. I think, I think my wife's sick of listening to me talk about Detroit. Our friends are sick of me talking about Detroit. So it's nice to have people that do understand that pain and misery every Sunday night.
Who knows? I mean, this time in 12 months, we might actually have met one another as well. I don't know if the listeners know, but none of us have actually met one another ever, I believe.
Nope.
So
no, it hasn't happened yet.
That's the thing that needs to happen next year.
I think it will happen fairly soon. I hope so. Hopefully the cases are coming down again soon and we'll be able to all meet up somewhere, sure.
I'm hoping, I know the London tickets go on sale towards the back end of this month, so I'm hoping to get down there for one of them. I don't know what anyone else is doing, but I definitely would like to see the Finns and the Jags, I think.
I can sort the tickets out for that worst case. Don't worry about that, boys. I've got you covered.
I'm going to brew some of that Kool-Aid recipe that Ryan got for us, and I'll bring it for you, Martin. So drink that.
Just in terms of sorry, Ryan.
Just to say, like Martin said, like, for instance, like, look at the Cleveland Browns. There's talk of Super Bowl chances this year, and where were they 3 or 4 years ago? Like, they were nowhere. They were scraping the bottom of the AFC North like 5 years ago. Now they're probably like an AFC contender. So it's not mad to think about teams making this big jump, like say the Bucks. So there's never rule anything out.
Definitely. The Rams, the LA Rams, obviously they got to a Super Bowl. They didn't manage to get over the line, but, how quickly they turn it around. And, believe it or not, I think the Bengals are kind of a little bit on their way, especially that offense. So, there's plenty of, you can turn it around quickly. Exactly. And the Browns look like a great run organization now, apart from when they just hired, who was our former
Bob Quinn.
Yeah, they hired Bob Quinn. So maybe they're going backwards already. We don't even know, but it is what it is. But yeah, we're all confident, which is good. But it's going to take a bit of time. But I think we're not that far off. I completely agree. I think we can get there. We can definitely win one in our lifetime, boys.
It could be worse. We could be Bears fans who put it with the same mediocrity every year and think they're a great team. So, it could be worse.
Very true.
So Det Fan Man just says the 1,000 subscriber video on YouTube could be the get together, do a live one. Can't wait for that. That would be very cool. Just for myself about best moments of the pods. I can't limit myself to just a few, and I'm the last person to go, so I'm just gonna have free reign to have a go at this. For my own personal moment, it was the first time that we spoke to a Lions player, and I actually took that one on myself because we only had a very, very small, limited amount of time. But speaking to Jason Kabinda, who I'm, by all reports is an absolute lock for the roster, which is a big thing for us friends of the pod, Jason Kabinda. But he was just a really, really nice guy to talk to. That was a big moment for me personally. But for the pod, how friendly all of the Lions beat writers have been, from Nick Baumgartner to Dave Burkett, and we've had Chris Perfett from POD. Who else have we had? We've had quite a few really cool people.
Kent Lee Platt.
Math
Jeff Risdon, Riz.
Risdon.
No one beats the Riz.
No one beats the Riz. Rachel Marie from Detroit Sports Alliance and Woodward Sports. And then, of course, we've had the other Lions players, so former Lions offensive tackle Jason Fox, as well as the UDFA D'Angelo Amos we spoke to recently. It's an incredible array of it's, to me, unfathomable that I could start a podcast about Liverpool Football Club and speak to Taki Minamino, someone like kind of at that sort of level of on the periphery, might make the team, could start a handful of games this year. It's never happening. It's just not. But we started a podcast here, and within a year, we're regularly talking to players of the team and beat writers for the team. It's insane. I cannot believe that we're here. I genuinely can't. And in some large part, it's thanks to the people that listen to us. In 3 months, we have 236 subscribers on YouTube. And we've got over 4,000 plays of the audio podcast. We've had over 5,000 views on YouTube in that time as well. So thank you to the Detroit Lions beat writers, the media, the fans, Luke G especially as well. He went out and got us most of the subscribers in the first place, the one-man hype train that he is. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to us spout a load of crap about a team that we all love for no really good reason, but just all the best reasons in the world too. So that's been really, really cool. Last words from you boys before we sign off. Anyone want to come forward with something?
Can you make sure that you don't invite me or Martin on your Liverpool podcast, please?
Yeah, me.
Seconded.
Special mention to all our other halves who put up with listening to this crap and all of us moaning, because I've made Lorraine watch football and like say her dad's like say LA, so she's conflicted.
Thanks to my dog, I'll take you out for a walk in a minute, mate.
And thanks to Roger Goodgroves for ensuring that I'll never criticise an NFL referee again.
That was an amazing moment during the draft. I loved that.
We got Chris from the DLP. He was absolutely excellent. Such a friendly guy.
What an episode.
He was so nice.
DLP with Chris and Riz coming on. We've had terrific success with that. I know that we all push our own chats and our own Facebook groups and what have you, but DLP, their Slack chat, so worth it. $1 a month. Go and do that. Some amazing characters on there. Analytical guys. I think one guy's actually going to be employed to be in an NFL type organization looking at stats. So go and have a look at that if you've got time. All right. If that's it, we'll move on and talk about our next episode then. So that will be as part of our new schedule, which is starting today. So we're here on a Monday. No Thursday episode this week. But from next week, we will be airing Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Monday will be a review pod from the previous game. Thursday will be a look forward to the next game. Actually, I don't know whether we'll do that into the regular season, that Thursday one, but we'll see. I'll let you know. Wednesday will be the start of the Royal Lions UK college football podcast with Ant and Brian McCluskey. That'll be a really good one to listen to. I'm hoping to get my knowledge up enough that I can actually join you guys one of these days for that. Hang on a minute. Det Fan Man has come in with a very final question. Who do you all have as the last man cut this year? That's an interesting question. Who do you think's on that roster bubble who might just not make it? Who's man number 54 on this team? That's a cracking question.
That's a good question.
David Blau. I think they'll cut the quarterback last.
Oh,
I think the laser show's going to get it. So
That's too tough to answer. I think I really don't know.
Funny.
David Blau. Oh no, the kicker. Bullock. Go on, Bullock.
Bashord Perriman.
Ooh. I like that. I like that very much. Who's the cornerback who was on DLP, the UDFA?
Amos?
No, he's our safety.
Jacobs.
Jerry Jacobs.
Jerry Jacobs. I think he might be 54.
Isn't he injured? I thought
He's got a knock, yeah.
He's got a knock. He's had a really good camp, though.
Quick question: what's Sage Sherratt been like?
Had a bad start to camp, but he has had a good last few days.
Better with pads on, like I said. If he fixes the drops, he'll sneak into the roster. I think Kevin Strong, who finished last season strongly, will maybe be the last man cut. Like defensive tackles tight.
Really good question. The Lions Lee said the Browns drafted Baker Mayfield in 2018. They were good last year, so that's 2 years. Fair point. Dan Pask says Tavai is 54.
Oh,
Good shout.
No.
Not
Good
buying it.
shout.
Not buying it.
You're going to see a much better player next year. A much better player.
Buy the jersey. Buy the jersey, and buy the jersey. Show your support. Come on.
No, I'm getting McNeil's jersey. That's where I'm going next.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Love that. Right.
I don't buy jerseys with names anymore. I've been burned on that. My Slayer Colour Rush jersey. Bloody hell. That was a waste.
Definitely got burnt with that black one that you're wearing there. That one, number 11, Williams.
Roy Williams, yeah.
He definitely got burnt there.
Yeah. If anyone's watching Lions organisation, bring back the blackout. We need it back.
Yeah.
That's
Blackout.
seconded.
Yeah, I agree, for sure. Right, it just remains for me to thank my co-hosts Martin Birra, Ryan McCluskey, Ryan Father, Steve Collins, Anthony Fitzpatrick. Follow us on the socials, Royal the Lions UK, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Do all that for us. We will love you eternally. I'm Matthew Turner. We'll see you on Monday after Lions preseason game week 1. Good luck, boys. We're behind you. Let's go, Lions. One pride.
One pride.
One pride.
One pride. All right.